Hi everybody. Suffering with mental health problems with if you're suffering with your feelings and emotions, painful feelings and emotions, and your thoughts, having that awareness there. Awareness in itself is awareness means non-judgmental awareness, like non-judgmental towards yourself and others. So creating an awareness around towards yourself, to help with your cope with your painful feelings and emotions and your thoughts there. Having being mindful, starting to like mindfulness towards yourself, towards like mental health. If you're suffering with mental health problems, being mindful around it all towards yourself. Now, the feelings and emotions, those painful feelings and emotions, those thoughts, those painful thoughts that you may experience, the first reactions towards it when you experience it, when you're in that moment, is the anger, the hatred, the blame towards it, taking things personally, taking things personally. So it's created judgment towards yourself, like the judgment around it. So that's where the awareness comes in, being more aware around it, taking like the non-judgment awareness around it. So having to cope with those painful feelings and emotions and those thoughts. Like I said, the instant reaction is the added suffering that is laid on top, that creates more suffering. And when you get those feelings and emotions, those thoughts that arise, that goes towards it, the added suffering blocks it. Like there's a block goes there, like a wall goes, and you push it, like pushing it away. But at the same time, what's happening is you're clinging on to it because it's not arising and passing. So it's like clinging on to it. So it's learning to not cling on. It's learning to let go of that added that is laid on top that creates more of a problem there. Now you may think, it's easier said than done. It is easier said than done when you're in those moments, but it's not possible to do. It just takes a bit of time, practice, learning to be able to do that, to create that new habit of doing that, to create a new positive habit of doing that. So taking away that added layer that's laid on top, when I say mindfulness, being mindful around that pain and suffering, by you think about it, there's a lot of negative that's created around the illness, say the suffering in itself. There's negative around it, a lot of negative. By turning that negative into positive, it's going in a different way. When your feelings and those emotions arise, is not to cling on to them. It's learning to let go of them. So going in with a friendlier attitude, being more friendlier towards yourself, towards those feelings, those emotions, towards those thoughts, being mindful towards it, learning the compassion. Now that's hard, but you can get them up on YouTube. There's a lot of mindfulness stuff you can get up on YouTube, learning about friendliness, like kindness towards yourself, compassion, to create a new positive attitude towards yourself. Because once you take away that added that is laid on top, that is naturally we go towards, once you take that away, it gets easier is a lot easier to cope with. So being, like I said, being mindful, a friendlier attitude towards yourself rather than the hatred and the anger towards it and the blame towards it, and the awareness, taking away that judgment that's created around it. So, and all in itself as well, like when I say like being able to cope with it a bit easier, like I said, you take away that added there, because what happens is the mind is confused. You've got to think, the mind is confused. Your body, you know, what's going on in my mind, what's going on in my body, the pain, the suffering there, it has to heal, but it has to heal in a way that you're going to be able to cope with it a bit better. The healing process has to be able to, so you can cope with it better, or else if you're going in at an angle like with the added, it's creating more of a problem. And what happens is that pain and suffering, it tends to go into a cycle, because every time those thoughts, those feelings and emotions arise and you're trying to push them away, they just keep coming back because they haven't been dealt with properly. So it's learning to deal with those feelings and emotions and those thoughts that you experience, learning to get an understanding, creating an understanding around it all of what is going on, the acceptance, learning to accept what is going on, because once you learn to accept what is going on, it makes it that bit easier to cope with, getting that understanding around it. If you've got an understanding of what is going on, it makes it that bit easier to cope with as well. So it's taken away that added that's laid on top, that, and having that awareness there, going in with awareness and going in with mindfulness, creating a new friendlier attitude towards yourself, a positive attitude towards yourself, to create a new habit, to be able to cope from day to day with those feelings and emotions that, and those thoughts that arise and pass a little bit easier. And over time, the more you do it, practicing it daily, being mindful daily, focusing on what is going on, to get that understanding there, focusing, not getting too drawn into your thoughts, because sometimes if you get too drawn into your thoughts, you may go a bit too far out there, and it's hard then to pull away from it. But it's getting that balance there to create a new habit, a new positive habit. So focusing, like your thoughts when they arise, knowing that those thoughts, they're just thoughts, and not taking things personally, letting them arise and pass and not clinging on to them. The same with your feelings and emotions, learning to cope with those feelings and emotions. So being mindful around it, being mindful towards yourself, and learning that acceptance there, learning not to cling on to that pain and suffering, but put away, so that you're learning to cope with it a little bit easier. Being able to then start to be able to open up a bit more about how you're feeling, because once you start to be able to cope with the pain and suffering in a better way, in a better attitude, and being mindful towards it, it help you to be able to talk a bit more about what is going on, because talking in itself isn't easy to do at first, but at first you have to probably get that understanding of what's going on around with your illness, with those feelings and emotions, creating a new habit, a new pathway of what you could do to make it easier to cope with. Pull away from that added that's laid on top, and being mindful towards yourself, taking away that judgment towards yourself, that judgment around the mental health in itself. Judgment in itself could be towards yourself or to others, like we say mental health awareness, and that's what awareness is about, being non-judgmental. So being non-judgmental towards yourself is taking away that blame, that hatred, that anger that you may like lay on top because of how you're feeling, is being aware. And by doing that and going in a different way, and like acceptance and understanding, is being a bit more mindful towards it, having a mindful attitude towards it, which will then go to your confidence, because the more you do it, the more you practice in doing these things, these coping strategies of being able to do that, the more benefit you get. And once you see that benefit, you start to feel a bit more confident in yourself. You start to feel a bit more positive within yourself as well. So it's all about the awareness towards yourself and being mindful towards yourself to take away or to alleviate that pain and suffering that you may be experiencing with your thoughts and your feelings and emotions, to be able to cope a little bit easier with it within yourself. And eventually you may start to overcome it as well, overcome that pain and suffering that you may be experiencing. So there is hope there. It's just all about practice, being patient, giving yourself time to heal, because everybody heals differently in a different way. You know, some people take longer than others, but it is possible to do. It is possible to overcome and be able to cope a little bit easier with that, with the pain and suffering. Mindfulness in itself can help with stress. It can help reduce stress. It's got many benefits in itself with it. You can get different ones up on YouTube with mindfulness as well. You can just, you know, if you're into meditation, try some meditation, or you could be mindful on your daily things that you do throughout the day to help you have something to focus on and help benefit you, really help you focus on, like sounds, sights, smells, tastes, things in our daily day-to-day things that we do, we can be mindful around, which can help with our well-being, and it can help with our mental health. So this video was about pain and suffering, you know, with your mental health, and having awareness around it and being mindful towards it, creating a new habit of being a friendly attitude and a more positive attitude towards it, towards yourself. So I'm going to end the video there. Please share this video. Our mental health is very important, and there's many people that, you know, this day and age that are suffering with mental health problems may find it difficult, and this video may be of some use to them. You know, who knows? I do these videos on the hope it may help somebody or some people, you know, because like I said, our mental health is important. Our well-being is important. We need to keep our well-being intact, you know, because our well-being can, you know, our mental health, if it's not intact, it can help, you know, physically as well, physical problem, you know, physically as well, or vice versa. So it's very important. So please share this video, and if you wish to subscribe, feel free to, and don't forget to give us a like, and see you in the next video.